So my name is Ella Halfcree and I manage admissions for the MSc Human Resource Management program here at Trinity Business School. And we're all gathered here today. We're very lucky to have Mark Heaney, who is the careers consultant, the dedicated careers consultant for this program. And we've gathered some alumni so we can hear about their experiences. So thank you very much for your time, everybody, today. We're going to try and keep this as close to 45 minutes as we can, because everybody is a working professional here and they've all given up time to kind of contribute to the session. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Mark. Mark's going to ask some questions and then you might come back to me at the end if we have time. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And I look forward to hearing about your experiences. Thanks very much, Mark.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ella, and thanks very much for our alumni for joining us today. So I'm just going to kind of chair this panel today. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of the experience on the course for the alumni, talk a little bit about their, I suppose, what they did before, what they're kind of working on now at the moment. So first of all, I'll just start off and I'll just ask Lavinia, if you just want to introduce yourself and tell us what your role is at the moment, your company, and what year that you did the program.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Lavinia. I did the HRM program in 2023, 2024. And my current role is recruiting analyst. So I pretty much do full recruiting, sourcing, recruiting, and then hiring people.
Okay, very good. And where are you based at the moment?
I'm based in Chicago, in the US.
Okay, very good, very good. And how is your job going so far? Are you enjoying it?
I'm very satisfied, very happy. It's been 3 months now, so it's been going really well.
Cool, that's brilliant. Jacopo, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working at the moment?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacopo. I'm from Italy. I was a student together with Ava in the HRM program from 2021 to 2022, and right now I am in Frankfurt. I am an HR solutions analyst, and I work specifically on topics such as learning and development and mobility.
Okay, very, very good. And how long have you been working in your role for?
So in this current role since September, but I've been here since the beginning of actually September of 2023. So I've been here for a year and a half now.
And just one final question before I move on. Is your role kind of like is it like a graduate program or graduate level role, or what type of role is it?
No, so I started actually as a trainee. So I did a 1-year traineeship and then I got promoted. So right now I'm into the first step of the promotion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Ava, if you can give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Ava. I did the HRM Masters in the same year as Jacopo, so 2021, 2022. And after that, I went into Accenture as part of a graduate program. So I did the Talent Accelerator program there. And my current role is HR Partner Specialist. So I've since finished the graduate program and been promoted as specialist. So that was only recently. So I'm delighted about that, but super happy. And thanks for having us today.
And so as you said, you came out of the graduate program. And is it, when you've kind of finished the graduate program, is there kind of like a kind of progression chart where you can kind of go, is this where you wanted to go, or is this where you kind of ended up, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so there is somewhat of a progression chart, which is really attractive to me. And one of the reasons why I was really interested in doing a graduate program when I came out of it. So usually the process is you do the graduate program for 2 years and you rotate around the business. So you can, it gives you exposure to different teams within HR, but also outside of it. So I did some time in consulting as well to kind of really get that all round perspective. And then finishing that, usually the process would be that you get promoted to a level 9, which is 2 management levels above when you come in on the graduate program. So that's really attractive, as it can sometimes accelerate that as well. But you get a bit of flexibility after the program around where you'd like to go. Obviously depending on what roles are available at the time, but because you get exposure to different teams and you try out different roles in those 2 years. One of those was HR partnering that I did, and that's kind of where I ended up. So hopefully that answers your question.
Good. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And finally, just to Stephen, if you could tell us a little bit about where you're at the moment and when you did the program?
Yeah, so hi, my name's Stephen Ogle. I did the program last year in the same class as Lavinia, 2023 through 24. And I currently work as a rewards analyst at DCC Vital in Dublin.
Okay, very good. And tell me a little about your journey kind of to do the masters, and what did you do kind of before you started the masters? I suppose why did you end up choosing doing the HRM masters?
Yeah, so prior to doing my master's here, I got my bachelor's degree in business management at the University of Memphis in the United States. And I also had two internships in HR. But part of what I really drove me to choose the MSc at Trinity is first, I did a study abroad program during my undergraduate degree where I had an internship in Dublin for a summer and just kind of fell in love with the city at that point. And then so when I was finishing my undergraduate degree, I was looking for graduate school master's HR programs. And the one at Trinity was very attractive, both because of the program in the school itself, but also its alignment with like CIPD and SHRM.
Okay, very good, very good. And I just want to go back to Lavinia there. So tell us a little bit about what did you do before you did the masters? Like, what type of experience did you have?
So I graduated from Loyola, a bachelor degree in global studies, and then I did take some management courses, and they had HR in it. And I was kind of getting interested and just talking to my parents about the possibility of working with people, since I'm a very people-friendly person, I would say. So I got interested in that, and I was like, well, before getting my master's on it, I want to see if that's what I want to do for the rest of my career. So I did an internship in HR as just a HR intern, so kind of covering all the areas here at Reply in Chicago, where I'm actually working right now. So I did a whole year internship, and then I figured out that's what I wanted to get into. So I applied for several different schools, but Trinity was obviously my favorite, and I decided to enroll at Trinity in the HR program, and and that confirmed even more that that's what I wanted to do. HR is what I wanted to get into, and now I'm back here, and they took me back at the previous company as a recruiting analyst, a full-time employee. So very, very happy about it.
Was that always your plan to go back to the same company, or like did it change during the course of the year?
I was very attracted to, because I did have a really great time there the whole year. I liked the company, the environment, the team that I was working with. So that was always at the back of my mind. But then they reached out to me in August, offering me this open position they had, which worked out perfectly because that's when I was looking for a position back then. So I was like, you know what? Yes, I would love to come back. So yeah, so that's what I did.
Cool. Sounds really good. And just to go to Ava, what was kind of like your experience before the masters? What did you kind of do? What was the background you had?
So I was in DCU. I did a Bachelor of Joint Honours in English and Human Development. So human development is a strain of three, so psychology, sociology, and philosophy. So particularly I was really interested in the psychology side, and again, like Lavinia was saying, like the real interest in people and why they do the things they do and how they work, and how I could maybe support in getting people to really thrive at work and be their best. So that's what led me to do HR. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time at DCU too.
Okay, very good. And just finally to Jacopo, what was your experience beforehand? Did you have a HR background?
Well, so I basically did my bachelor's in the Netherlands in Rotterdam from 2017 to 2020, and I did it in psychology with a minor in business. And within business, I did a couple of subjects on HR. And after I graduated in 2020, I decided to take a year out of academic purposes, and I decided to do an HR internship in a pharmaceutical company in Italy, near Milan, where I basically just tried to understand a little bit more firsthand in a company how HR works. And I've realized that after the internship, I was then kind of I've realized that I was missing a little bit of an academic background in HR and something where it's much more structured, where I really have an idea of what are the different processes of HR, what are the different theories within HR, and obviously which I didn't get in my bachelor's because I think it was the HR subject that I had back then was only for like a month and a half. So it was something very quick. It was a quick overview of HR, but I really needed to have a deeper knowledge within it. And that's why I decided to apply to an HR master's. And that's when the Trinity one, when I saw it, I always wanted to go to Dublin and to Trinity. And obviously it was first ranked. It still is first ranked HR masters. So I was always very happy to go, and I was lucky enough to get in. And so I've decided to take that path and go to the HRM in Trinity.
And tell me a little bit about when you were doing the masters, like is there things like what were the kind of learnings that you got from the masters that kind of maybe have helped you in your job, or what are the things that you kind of developed during the year that you think, oh, I'm able to kind of actually use that during my job at the moment?
Yeah, so actually, the one thing that I've realized that the HRM master gave me, which really helped me, but I've only realized when I started working, actually, it was really the structure and background of HR that it gave me, because it really showed me all the different processes that HR has. Going from performance management, going from learning and development, rewards management, recruitment, all these types of HR processes and topics really, really well developed also throughout the masters, really gave me a strong background and a strong structure of what I could imagine going forward in a work environment. And that really, really helped me, because now I understand where the performance management, what does that entail, and where it ends up in a company. And so it was really, really useful, and all the theories behind it, because we also looked at and heard different theories for different processes, and that was also incredibly useful, which you can take into your job as well.
Okay, that's very good. And just to go to Stephen, so like, same for yourself, I suppose. Like, what were the kind of learnings that you took from the masters, and at the moment, is there things that you're kind of using now in your current role?
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple, but one of the most important for my current role is there was a module on like rewards and compensation, which is obviously really important for my job as a reward analyst. But even like specific learnings from that, like the job leveling, was exactly what the company was looking for when they were looking to hire a rewards analyst. And so having that background knowledge was huge in that process. And then another thing that I've gotten from the program that I really wasn't expecting to get from it, but has come in handy, is presentation skills and like working on those presentations, because like beforehand, I didn't feel so confident about those, but there were several, projects, either group projects or individual projects throughout the masters that required a presentation. And I was actually part of my interview process for getting the job was giving a presentation on a scenario they gave me. And so I feel like it really helped then. And then I use them pretty regularly at work too, giving different like presentations or like classes on how to do stuff.
So you're a lot more comfortable now doing presentations than you would have been prior to doing the masters.
Yeah, absolutely.
You touched on something there I was going to talk about. So the group work. So obviously the large element of the group work throughout the masters. So like, I suppose, were there like what did you kind of learn from the group work, because you're working with people from like different industries, different backgrounds, different levels of experience. So I suppose from your point of view, Stephen, what were the big things you learned kind of working within groups?
I think probably the biggest thing I learned from working in groups is just the importance of like good communications and that everyone's kind of on the same page, because like not everybody, especially when you're working in an international environment, people might have different ideas or different interpretations of the same things. So you have to just really be sure that everyone kind of is clear on like either what the goals are or what you're trying to do with the group project.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. And to go to Lavinia, like I suppose not to say your person, but like, would it have been conflict in the groups? Is that something that you kind of learn a skill of how to deal with everybody and deal with issues and problems within the group, I suppose?
Yeah, so I think the great thing that we also learned at Trinity, but within group projects, was definitely learning how to, deal with issues, especially for those intensive courses that we had, maybe for like a week. So we had a group project at the end of the week, and we had to really, really work extra hard and every day just get together and work on the presentation, on the project, whatever it was. So I think like Stephen was saying, communication was crucial for sure. Just understanding what everyone was like, trying to get everyone on board pretty much, just making sure everyone knows what they have to do. Everyone has support from each other. That was the one thing that I really, really appreciated, was that everyone was always so kind to like help each other. I had times when I struggled maybe understanding some concepts of the project that we were working on, and I had another team member that would just sit down with me and explain it to me and just help me out, not do the work for me, but just really trying to get me to understand where I was at. And that was like one really, really big component of group projects at in our masters. And when we would get to moments where we had obstacles or get stuck on some and like maybe we had different opinions or different ideas that we wanted to go with, we really tried to give everyone the opportunity to explain why we wanted to go with a certain direction. And whenever we had all the ideas together, we were like really good at being like, okay, no, actually, maybe I like your idea more, like, let's go with that. So everyone was very open-minded, always open to listen, always open to work with each other, and not just being, my idea is the best, or let's go with this. I don't want to go with, like, I don't want to hear about it, about your ideas. So I think that was the really big thing that I also learned from working with different background, different cultures, and different, mindsets.
Okay, that's great. So Ava, I know that you had mentioned that you did a little bit of kind of consulting as part of your grad program. So did something like group work, is that really beneficial for working in the kind of consulting piece, like dealing with groups and things like that? Was that kind of helpful for you?
It definitely was. It definitely was. I think in consulting, definitely that's where I started off. I did 3 months in consulting and beyond, like in really all of those teams that I was in. And I think the power of like active listening, really understanding what's needed, and also like asking the right questions. I think those are like 2 key things to work in a group. People will come with different perspectives, and like that's powerful. That's what you want, because if everyone was coming with your same perspective, like that would be a pretty stagnant place to be. So I think it's really powerful to both really listen, come at it from a balanced perspective, and see how it can be best tackled, compromising everyone's views, or really talking through and querying why X idea should go through. So I think that those skills were definitely helpful in consulting and beyond, and still in my role today, for sure.
And I know we mentioned sometimes some people, when they do the undergrad, they don't do as much group work. Would that have been the case for you when you did your undergrad? Was it a new thing when you did your master's to actually be in lots of groups, or was it something that you kind of done before?
There was a little bit of group work. There was a little bit of group work in my bachelor's, but definitely more in Trinity. And I do think it's helpful because it's reflective of the work environment. Like, you're never going to be working in silo. Usually you're working in teams, and you need to get really comfortable with that environment, because that's what you're going to be approaching when you get into the job market. So I do think that that's a really helpful part of the course. It kind of helps to merge the practical world with the theoretical one, which is so important too. So yeah.
That's good. That's brilliant. Jacopo, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about your journey. So your journey applying for the job and getting the job. So when you finished your master's, as you said, you finished in 2022. So how did you approach the job market? What was your kind of your your plan afterwards or your plan before? How did you kind of approach it?
Yeah, so actually, right after we gave in our thesis and our graduation, there was a 2 months gap, 3 months gap. So I've decided to take a little trip just to relax a little bit after the masters. And in that period, I was also thinking of how to apply, and especially what type of role, because HR is really varied, and that's, I think, is the good thing about it, because you can do a lot of things. As you can see also here, we have 4 different people doing 4 different types of job, all within HR, which I think shows exactly that. But at the same time, it can be a little difficult, right? Because obviously there is a lot of choice, and maybe you like more topics than you dislike others, right? So then you have a lot of choices, and you don't really know exactly which one is the right one for you. But at the same time, what I've also learned throughout my journey in applying jobs is just also go for it. See the different ones that you have, see what opportunity feels better to you, and also remember of the different subjects that you've had, the theories, what you like, what you don't like. Obviously, between theory and practice, there is obviously a bit of difference, but still remember what you've liked and what really interests you. And that's what really was important to me, because I've really looked at different types of roles, especially looking at internships first, but different types of roles. And there were some that didn't really catch my attention, but then I looked at different ones for learning and development, because I remembered from the masters I really liked learning and development, and it was really really helpful. And that's when I stuck on for learning and development internships, and that's when I went on, different sites such as LinkedIn, and you look at different locations where internships are available, etc. But I would also like to thank you, Mark, because I remember that you've given us a lot of your time and help even after the our masters was finished. I don't know if you remember, but you and I had a call. I think it was November 2022 or December even, where I asked you a few information on my CV and my motivation letter. And so also this is incredibly helpful. The fact that we finished the masters, but at the same time there is that help from your side or from other career counselors such as yourself, I think was really really helpful. So thank you for that. And that's for sure something that has helped me to structure and to give me an idea of how to look for a job.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. But actually, that's probably something to touch on. That's with the students. So just the prospective students who are watching this recording, just a reminder that obviously the career service is here, but it's a lifelong service. So I would still work with students maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years later. So like all of our alumni can come back to us if they do need any support. So it is something that, because as you mentioned, kind of Jacopo, you took a bit of time to kind of decide what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go. So and I knew that because we had that conversation. So you kind of came back to me a few months later. So everyone does it slightly differently. So it just means that we cater the service to whatever people, I suppose, whatever support that they do need. So Stephen, I know you started your job kind of start of the summer. So what was your kind of journey kind of applying for jobs? Did you apply for many? Did you find it difficult? How did you kind of approach the market?
Yeah, so I guess first, before I even approached the market, I found a lot of help from you and the rest of the careers team, just because being from the United States, I had never looked for a job in Ireland. I really didn't know where to start, like how to make my CV more appealing. Like I just didn't know any of that. And so getting that help from you was just a big help, and knowing like what are the first steps I need to take to finding a job, and like, what do I search for? What in just how do I structure a CV? And so that was nice. And then I think one of the other really important things I did was just start looking at jobs early, even before I was really interested in applying necessarily, just to kind of get an idea for what is out there, or maybe what might interest me when I'm looking at them. And also by looking early, you can kind of be a little pickier with what you want to apply for, because you're not in a rush to, find a job right now because you need to get a paycheck or whatever it may be. So it allowed me to really find the ones that interest me the most, which is what ended up happening with this one. I saw the reward analyst role, I was still working on my dissertation because it was in June, but it really, really, piqued my interest. And so I applied for it anyway, and it kind of worked out from there. And so I think, starting early was a big piece in it.
And did you, so that was an open role at that time. Did you look at graduate programs at the time, kind of like September to kind of November time, or were you kind of always focused on maybe getting that kind of role that was slightly different to a graduate program, I suppose?
I took a look at some of the graduate programs, and there are some really, attractive ones, but I just wasn't, because to apply, really far in advance, I wasn't 100% sure on if that's what I wanted to commit to at the time. But also, since I'd had, a couple years of like other HR experience, I was kind of looking for something a little more either like specific like this one or just different in general.
Yeah, and just to kind of note, I suppose, with a graduate program in Ireland, they're probably between 2 to kind of 3 years, and primarily probably people with maybe 0 to 3 years experience. So we in the class normally will have candidates similar to yourself, Stephen, who've got a couple of years experience, and it's more that you're kind of applying a couple of months before you'd like to start. So you're probably like applying kind of April, May time to look to kind of start kind of June. So it just means that if you're a candidate with a bit of experience, you're probably not going to apply for maybe graduate programs at the start of the year. So you have a bit more time, I suppose, from that perspective. But that's really good to kind of get that insight. I know obviously, Lavinia, from your point of view, you went back to a previous role, but did you still kind of look at different roles, say within Ireland, or apply for different roles as well at the same time, or how did it work for you?
So I definitely wanted to apply to Ireland. I totally would have considered it if it wasn't for the fact that I had a green card, so I had to get back to the US not to lose it. But otherwise, I would have totally considered it. And I've always looked at the emails that you've sent. So many roles. So many times I wanted to, because I looked at them and I was like, oh, this was like this would have been perfect. And it's obviously like it couldn't have worked out for me, but I definitely was considering other roles. Recruiting was my favorite area, so I was aiming to go into that, but I was also very open to going to HR generalist, and to go off of what Stephen and Jacopo said. I think it was very helpful, all the help I got from you throughout the year, because I remember back in like January or February when I was starting to, kind of understand what I wanted to, what role I wanted to apply for. I remember I came to you and I was like, I have no idea. Like, help me out here. I don't know what to get into. And you were like, okay, like you could like, try to apply for roles like this, try to get into this, you gave me a lot of directions. And that's when I kind of like had a clear idea of how to figure it out, which role I wanted to get into. And yeah, I did apply to other positions back in August, when I started to apply for roles, because I knew I was going to go back to the US in September. And once again, I came to you. I remember in August, we had a call and I was getting a lot of help for my CV, which again, what Jacopo and Steven were saying, I think it was very helpful to have the support from the careers team after the thesis, after the master was done. I think that was so helpful and definitely helped me get a better start into the application process. So yeah, so I am very grateful for that.
Cool, thank you. And Ava, so you did the grad program, but am I right in saying, did you apply kind of September time, or did you apply like kind of closer to when it was starting? I remember it was kind of June. I remember we were talking about it in the June before you started September. But
Yeah.
What route did you go down?
I mean, that specific one is a good question. but yeah, what I would say is I was definitely proactive about it. Like I was looking out for jobs, like coming towards the end of the masters and things like that. And I saw that job come up at the Accenture graduate program. And to be honest, it was the only one that I was like so interested in. There was one other job that I applied for though. So in that case, I do think I was lucky, right? So I do want to preface it with that. But like in the interest of people who are listening to this, the things that I think were really helpful, I did get on to you, Mark, when I got the interview for the graduate program role, and we did a mock-up interview, and that was something that was really helpful for me, right? Because a lot of those questions and things did come up in my interview. The interview was actually quite challenging, I have to say. Like there was quite a lot to it, I would say, but I think my number one tip is if you do want to get into a graduate program, be proactive about looking and seeing what could be suitable for you. The Accenture one I do really recommend. I also got to do a rotation in Japan in the learning team, which was an incredible experience, and I've absolutely loved my time there. So I do want to say that in case anyone is interested in the TAP program, a little plug. But also Mark, super helpful. Like, use the resources that are there in Trinity to help you. Like, some of the guys have been saying it's helpful after the fact. For me, it was a little bit more before that for the interview process. Another thing that I think is really key is like giving a lot of attention to your CV and really tailoring it to the job that you're applying for. And using the services as well that Trinity offers to make sure that it's the best that it can be. Like, I came out of Trinity at the time of graduating to a really competitive job market. So I think those things can really help. But to answer your initial question, I don't remember.
Yeah. No, because I remember at the time you came to me, and it was the June time, and you said to me, "Oh yeah, like I've got for grad program." And traditionally, grad programs is normally kind of like December time, November, December, when they do the interviews. So I do remember, and I actually do remember at the same time another person came to me at the exact same time for a mock interview for the same role. So at the same time, so it was happening at the same time. But yeah, no, I do remember that it was quite quick. And sorry, there was a point I wanted to actually ask, because you touched on the interviews. So when you were interviewing, you said, "Oh, that sounds like a really kind of quite intense interview." But so when you were doing the interview, like what were you kind of trying to sell there? Were you trying to sell your education, or were you trying to sell your work experience, or like what were the things kind of that you managed to kind of that you felt would have helped and got you the role?
Really good question. And I would actually say it's not those things that you mentioned. I think really what stood out is your ability to be able to deal with complexity and come at things from a balanced perspective. Like, I really think that is the key to being like a good HR partner or really solid in HR. It's being able to balance the strategic business needs with like the employee well-being needs, and marrying that really well. So like quite a lot of that interview was scenario based. There was also quite a strategic element to it, where we had to do a project and deliver our perspective on a certain task, as well as kind of your normal interview questions that you'd expect that we would have gone through, Mark. So from an experience perspective, I didn't have that much experience in HR. Like, I was working while I was doing the master's, but it was sort of administrative, like receptionist type of role. And so the master's was my real practical knowledge, which I definitely utilized in the interview. But I think more than that, it's really just showing your ability to be able to deal with things and think things through. And that's what I think is key for that.
That's good, because I think we do get a lot of candidates, certainly a lot of candidates, we get students who maybe haven't got direct HR experience, so they're wondering how they kind of sell it. And I think a lot of the times when I'm speaking to them, it's about kind of selling, like talking about your education, but also at the same time maybe talking a little bit about like how you would actually do something. So it's kind of more about the person as well, I suppose. I suppose go to Jacopo a little bit about like how, when you were interviewing for your role, like what was it that you talked obviously about the little bit of experience that you had. Was it that what you kind of focused on, or was it more the education that you focused on when you're trying to show your experience?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's a really good one. I think honestly, I have to say a little bit of both, because what they're looking for, especially as you're coming out of university, in my opinion, is that you are eager to learn. And whilst whilst you have a little bit of experience, maybe or maybe not, it doesn't matter. What I think is very important is that you can show your eagerness to learn through what you've learned in the masters, because the master does teach you a lot of basics and more for HR. So I think that's very important, because what they do want to see is that there is a potential for any future skills or any skills that you already have at the moment. So I think whether you have a little bit of experience that you can focus on that, or just the masters, that's absolutely more than enough. And I think that really is the most important thing, is really that you show your openness and your eagerness to learn.
Okay, very good. And the same question to Stephen. So, like, you talked a little bit about the fact that you had done rewards within the masters. So was that a big focus that you focused on with them to say, listen, I've just completed my masters and I've done this, which is quite relevant, or did you kind of touch on your experience as well at the same time?
I would say it was definitely a combination of both of those aspects, because they had me do like an assign like a scenario before the interview where I had to like solve a problem and just talk about how I would approach the problem. And with that aspect of the interview, I think the masters was a huge help, just because the background and rewards we covered in the masters really helped with that problem and just gave me the confidence I needed to answer that question in a really effective way. But then also in the interview, they want to cover like different situational based questions, like, oh, what would you do if you had a disagreement with a team member or something? And so having those experiences from work is also a huge help. But you also get those in the masters as well. You might have a group project that has a similar scenario. So definitely both.
Okay, brilliant. And just finally to Lavinia, anything additional that anybody else has said already, or anything from your experience kind of interviewing at all?
So I actually haven't really gotten interviews, because as I started the application process, I got reached out by the company I was working for before, and they have worked with me the whole year, so they knew how I worked. They knew the kind of like knowledge I had, and I had in addition the masters, which they were very pleased about. They were, coming from like with a master from Trinity, it's it's a big deal, and they were very happy to take me back with that addition. So they already knew I worked well with them, and I knew the team, I knew how they worked, I knew all the systems that they used. So they were very much. I did have an interview, but it was kind of more like a friendly interview, I would say. So just to kind of get on board and just explain to me the role and everything, but I would definitely agree. If I had an interview, I would definitely agree that I would have used. I don't have an extensive experience in HR. I only had the internship and have the master's now. So I think I would have definitely talked about a few key things that I learned throughout the year at Trinity in my previous HR internship. So yeah.
That's good. That's great. And well, thank you so much, everyone, for answering the questions. Now, I know we've only got about 5 minutes left or so, but I thought I'd pass it over to Ella, because I know Ella normally has a good question to ask at the end. No pressure. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll pass back to Ella.
Thanks, guys. That's been brilliant listening to everybody's kind of different perspectives. I should say, no pressure, Mark. You covered a lot there, and it was great to hear about everybody's kind of different backgrounds. I think the thing that I really appreciate about recruiting for this program is that it is such a diverse class. People coming from all over the world. They have very different kind of work backgrounds, or some people have never been in work, and some people have come from a kind of business or management academic background. So it was also good to hear from the likes of Ava and everybody else about what you think makes a good HR professional. Like, what are the kind of skills that you've learned? And obviously, if I had more time, what I really wanted to ask about is if there was an example of you guys, I guess, learning from classmates, because obviously you do a lot of kind of group work. But I suppose, since I only have 5 minutes and I do want to get one particular question in, from each of you, or to hear each of your perspective, I suppose thinking about who would be watching this, the audience for this. So it'd be people that are thinking about applying for the next intake. So obviously you guys have been where they are now. And maybe they haven't 100% decided whether a course in HRM is for them, or maybe they're thinking about Trinity, but they're not 100% decided on which university to go to. I might just go around each of you and ask if there was one thing that you could kind of say to them, I guess a kind of positive encouragement about whether or not to kind of go down this route, what would it be? So maybe Stephen, I'll start with you. I'll put you on the spot.
I guess one big piece of advice I would have for anybody who's, wondering if they want to do a master's, from another country, especially, is to don't worry about being in an environment where you don't know anybody or don't know how things are going to operate. Everyone at Trinity is super welcoming and really, really helped with the whole journey for me. The program itself is amazing, but I think what really brings it to the next level is the people in the program and that whole process. So that would be my tip. Don't be afraid of going overseas or taking that big step.
Actually, I just reposted someone on LinkedIn saying a similar thing, that they come as an international student. And something that I find, I've been recruiting for this program for 5 years, is that the HRM group especially tends to be quite cohesive. So I'm always seeing people posting pictures of you going out and spending time outside of the classroom, which I think is obviously really, really important. And I actually remember, Stephen, last year you came up to me and introduced yourself, which I thought that's really brave in a room full of people, kind of, it's just a brave thing to do when you're kind of overwhelmed and you're in a country for a first time. So I obviously really appreciated being able to meet you in person. So that was really nice. Ava, do you have anything that you'd like to say to anybody that was kind of on the fence and not sure about taking that leap?
Sure, Ella. I think it's honestly a really tricky time. It's quite overwhelming when you're in that decision mode of knowing what the right thing to do is. And my honest advice is, you never know for sure, but there's things that can help you to make the best informed decision, right? So what I would say is really have a think. And if you're interested in people, if there's something that's drawn you towards it, I would absolutely encourage you to do it. I absolutely loved it. And I think as a profession, it's a really rewarding job where you can make a real impact that's meaningful. And if that's something that interests you, try it, do it. And I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but you can always change. Nothing is forever. I just remember that feeling of not knowing if what I'm doing is 100% going to be the thing that's my forever thing. I knew I was so interested, but I do think it's quite overwhelming. So my advice is to take the pressure off yourself. If you have an interest, go with that, and see where it takes you. And I do hope it works out for the best.
Okay. Firstly, that was an amazing answer. Secondly, if you ever start a podcast, please let me know. I would like to listen to it. Jacopo, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to go after that great answer, but I do absolutely agree with you, Ava. Absolutely. I think it is a very daunting period because you're looking at kind of your future and you're like, wow, these are very important decisions that I will have to make. But as you said, also, just do it. I think just go for it. Obviously, with the one that you think it's best for you in that period. I think is the most important thing. But another tip that I would say is also, if you do have doubts and if you do have a lot of questions, you can also just reach out. That's always something I thought was always really useful. First of all, Ella, you've been an amazing help, because I remember we exchanged quite a few emails before I got in, and thank you for that. Always super helpful. But also maybe on LinkedIn you can look at anybody else who has done the program. They may be able to help you with that as well. But also, yeah, just as Ava said, anything that helps you make the best informed decision, and also sometimes just close your eyes and submit the application, and honestly just good luck. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacopo. We'll finish with you, Lavinia, if you don't mind following all of that.
Yeah, those were all great answers, and I totally agree with all of them. One thing that I do want to add is that when I applied, I was only 21, 22. So I was very young, and I was definitely nervous about, getting into a master degree on the opposite side of the world. And I was definitely very like stressed from that part. But after this year at Trinity, one thing that I can for sure say is that it's been an amazing experience. I was the youngest in the class, and I think I got so much support from professors, from careers team, from classmates, and it's been an amazing experience for me. I think obviously there were some ups and downs because that's normal, but I think Trinity really made it sure, and also Dublin, because I love being in Dublin as well. I think the location is amazing and perfect for students as well, for young people. It's full of young people, full of international people. And I remember at times, like Stephen was saying, like, I know it can be scary being like an international person in a new country, in a new city. But I think everyone is on the same boat. So there's so many people that are going through the same thing, and we really helped each other, and it made it a better experience. So if you are on the fence of applying to this master program, my recommendation is, even if you have like just one instinct that says, I want to apply to these masters, definitely do it, because I think you will not regret it.
Okay, brilliant. You've all made my job a lot easier. Thank you very much, guys, for your time today. I'm going to let you go because all of you have given up very generously time during the workday to join us today and share your insights. I'll just say one housekeeping thing. Obviously, as I mentioned before, my name's Ella, and I am managing the admissions for the program. So if you have any questions, need any updates about the status of your application, if you've already submitted one, or if you haven't submitted one yet and you're unsure about the admission process, please do reach out. We have a general email address, business.masters@tcd.ie. So thank you again, Mark, for the fantastic panel moderation, and thanks again for everybody joining us. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.